This is the video for comparing bits and pieces, investigation 3.3, question B, parts 1 through 3. So we're talking about question B, but we have to read through the instructions for A because B is a continuation of question A. And it talks about how Wendy's mother Ann makes lasagna every year to celebrate the winter holiday season. She makes lasagna in an enormous 20-inch by 20-inch square pan. So you see the square pan of lasagna here. It says she cuts the lasagna into 100 servings to share with friends, family, neighbors, and so on. So question B uses that same problem setup and tells us some more specifics. Let's take a look here. Question B says, Anne baked 3 more pans of lasagna. Each pan was shared with a different group of people. For each group below, they ask us to do 2 things. First, write each person's share as from each person's share as a number of servings. Okay, so we're supposed to figure out each person's share and express it as a number of servings. And then we're supposed to write each person's share as a fraction and decimal part of a whole pan. Okay, so we're going to answer, each question will have 2 answers. All right, so the first pan was shared among Wendy's 4 favorite teachers, which means we're going to take this pan of lasagna that has 100 servings, and if you have 100 servings to share among 4 people, it's logical that they would take the 100 servings and divide it into 4 equal parts, which would be 100 divided by 4 is 25 servings per teacher, which is a unit rate. Okay, so there's our first answer. If we're supposed to say the number of servings that each person would get, here it is right here, 25 servings per teacher. And now we're supposed to take that and express it as a fraction and a decimal. Now, fractions are part to whole relationships. So I'm going to take the part that each person is going to get and compare it to the whole pan. So the part that each teacher gets is 25 servings, and that's 25 servings out of the entire pan, which has 100 servings. So you're talking about 25 hundredths or 1/4 if you reduce it. So each person gets 1/4 pan, which as a decimal would be 0.25. So there are the 2 different forms of your answer. It tells me how many servings each person gets, and then that many servings is what fraction of a pan and what decimal is a pan. Moving on to the next one. Anne miscalculated and had only 1 pan to share among 200 6th graders. Okay, so if we have 100 pieces in a pan and 200 kids intend to eat those 100 servings, you can tell right away we're not going to have enough servings to give each kid their own. So what's going to happen is we're going to take these servings and divide them up evenly among 200 kids. Okay, so I want to show you a little different way to approach this one if you want. Instead of just using division and going through the same strategy as before, you also could express this as a ratio and work in ratios, and I'll show you what I mean. So 100 servings is what you would get out of 1 pan of lasagna. Okay, so you take 100 servings, and that's 1 pan of lasagna. If you divide that up by 200, 100 divided by 200 is 0.5, and that'll be servings. So this is the servings that you would get for each kid, because we took 100 servings, divided into 2 parts, 200 divided into 200 parts. It's 0.5 servings per kid. And then you could take that whole pan and divide it into 200 parts. And 1 divided by 200 gives you 0.00 5 pans per kid. Okay, so what this is telling me is 100 servings divided up among 200 kids is 0.5 servings per kid. One whole pan of lasagna divided up among 200 kids is 0.005 pans per kid. So really, this ratio answers both of the questions. There's our answer expressed as servings. There's what decimal of a pan each kid gets. And if you have 200 people sharing something, 0.005 is 1/200th pan per student or kid or sixth grader, however you want to say it. So these two are equivalent. Okay, last one. One pan went to 8 of Anna's neighbors. So you could say that one pan of lasagna has 100 servings in it. And you're going to share that with 8 neighbors. So you're going to take those servings and divide them into 8 equal parts. You could take that pan and divide it into 8 equal parts. And what you'll find out is if you look at here, the units are pans divided up among 8 neighbors. And that's going to give you 0.125 pans per neighbor. So that tells me what decimal of a pan each neighbor gets. On the bottom, when you do servings divided by neighbors, you get 12.5, which is 100 divided by 8. 12.5. When you divide servings by neighbors, you get servings per neighbor. Okay, so the question asks us to figure out how many servings per neighbor. It asks us to figure out what decimal of a pan per neighbor. And it also asks us to do what fraction of a pan per neighbor. So one pan shared 8 ways. Each neighbor would get 1/8 pan per neighbor, which is equivalent to this decimal. So these two go together, and that's how you could use ratios to find these answers out.